Testing, 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 testing. Okay. 刑罚，刑罚，刑罚。Oh my goodness.
你们谁要带着我？他是队长，你是队长。No, Joey. Oh, reporter. That's so funny. He might be the one.
If I did it wrong, what's gonna happen?
Next to the burn.
那我们现在请法，大家请合掌。We'll now do the Dharma request. So, everyone, please put your palms together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo Sadanto Sujedoye Arahati Samyak Sambuddhosye. Together. 无上甚深微妙法，而且万劫能遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Repeat after us. Supreme and wondrous Dharma, supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it within our sight and hearing. May we understand the Buddha's actual meaning. All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, Dharma Masters, and all good and wise friends, Amitofo.
Amitofo.
Good evening. Welcome to episode 3 of our podcast from Gold Coast Dharma Realm, where we have our featured guest, Dharma Master Jing Wei, sharing his story about, we call it returning home.
Returning home.
Returning to his true home, coming to the monastery. So first, I think people need to get translation devices. Anybody 谁需要中文的没有中文翻译机器可以举手的人会传给大家。Okay, so as a recap of our last episode, we heard Dharma Master Jing Wei came from Poland to the Promised Land, the Pure Land of the City of 10,000 Buddhas, where the scrolls were special, the people were all enlightened, or at least the monastics. And he thought maybe we'd almost be all Westerners, and he'd be ready to leave home and cultivate the way. And what he met was mostly a Chinese community, cold, hungry, and pretty discouraged when he got to the 6,000 Buddhas. And he was missing his home, missing his girlfriend, kind of trying to figure out what was he doing with himself. And he got the advice from Doug that if he's comfortable in his practice, then he's not really cultivating. And he said this is when he started to begin to face his mind. Because we realized before that he was constantly running away from the suffering in his life through alcohol or through partying. And now he was at the 16,000 Buddhas and he only had his own mind to look at. At the same time, he did feel some community there at 16,000 Buddhas, especially with some of the senior disciples like Dharma Master Heng Shun, Dharma Master Heng Liang, and Dharma Master Heng Shi, who was teaching on the Heart Sutra. And their presence gave him some level of inspiration that, they're Westerners. If they can make this a lifelong journey, maybe he could do it too. Right? So he could feel, maybe I can find a home here. Maybe you can find a home here. And so he also mentioned that he went to Abhayagiri monastery and was very inspired by the monastics at that monastery that actually Master Hua gave to the Thai forest tradition. And yesterday, one of the people asked him, why didn't he end up leaving home at Abhayagiri? And he said, because his kind of deeper aspirations was the Bodhisattva path. life of service. And I think that's really emphasized in Master Hua's Dharma. So he continued on to say his practice. This time he was practicing something like 1,512 bows a day on top of the CDTV schedule, and he could describe it as hard, harsh, and hurry, in a rush, again, right? And so he'd be pushing himself really hard, he would be scolding himself inside, and he'd be rushing himself trying to get his bows done, and really using willpower. And over time, what happened was he broke his body, and then he broke his heart as well. And he ended up in Poland getting a surgery for his back and basically unable to really move.
Forget about 500
Yeah.
about.
Forget about the 1,500 pounds, right? He could barely just lie on his back. And his grandma would help him eat and help him go to the bathroom, right? And when he was lying there, he had this kind of interesting reflection that although life at CDTP was tough, still it was a place of real practice. And that's where his community was. And he felt, well, actually, in fact, people there were actually very caring. Ironically, yeah, there's a warmth there that you have to kind of see behind the kind of maybe the tough cultivation demeanor. There's actually a real care there, right? There's a kind of rhythm of practice that's just in the background all the time in the schedule that can feel oppressive, but when you're not in it, you realize, wow, this is really what gives this Dharma a kind of regularity that goes deep into the heart. And he talked about the sense of community, of other spiritual practitioners, because in Poland, mostly it's Catholic. And to find real Dharma friends is not easy. So they're lying on his bed, barely able to move. Like, well, CDTP is not so bad. It's not so bad. And actually being at home and seeing just the constant, life of samsara, in the world where people fight over small things, are probably caught up in very mundane concerns. His spirit of samvega, that sense of urgency of, don't waste your life, cultivate the way, came up. And he made that vow to say, I'm going to walk this path. I'm going to give my life to this, regardless of the conditions. And that was a real turning point for him in his process. And I'll say one more thing before I turn it back to Jing Weisher, which I thought was actually very important, was he was also describing that in this period of time when he was hard, harsh, and in a hurry, he was really trying to perform, trying to show up as a really good cultivator in order to feel like he could be accepted by everyone else, to feel worthy. And he didn't want to just do that anymore. Right? He wasn't using the Dharma so much for this deeper inner transformation, but rather to make himself feel like he could be accepted by others. And there was also a shift reflecting, where is the deeper transformation? And so I'll leave it at that, pass back to Jing Weisher about what happened after being in Poland, lying on your back, making a vow to want to come back to America to continue to cultivate the way. And at this point, he's back now at Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, because the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery became kind of like not say a hospital, but like a place for people to recuperate from their wounds in battle and cultivation.
Jing was another.
Yeah, I was another one. I was recovering from a surgery, so
from another battle.
Another battle.
Return. So yeah. Thank you. It was you very well captured the whole journey, different chapters. And so I'm in Berkeley Buddhist Monastery now. As you know, Rabbi Shur is now here, and probably he more identified with Australia right now with the Berkeley Monastery. Still it is. But Rabbi Shur was the monk who from the beginning was in Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, was established in 1995. This is actually the last monastery purchased by Master Hua. So 1995, so he was quite a long time already, and we have a whole established community. What was kind of key to seeing that You know, like, for instance, every day, different families bring the food offerings for us. You know, you feel very sense of Armstrong in Berkeley, in some sense. It's like, zzz, you know, the door is ringing and someone bringing the food offering for you. And it's kind of touching. It's touching also as well, being here and be fit every day, of course. But receiving that substantial gift every day from others. Some people are driving more than an hour to make this offering. It's one of the, it's difficult to miss that, I might say it this way. You know, sometimes maybe in the city when I was, it's easier to miss. You know, oh, food is there. You're expecting food will be there. And it's unfortunate because, of course, as we know, and we're experiencing here, many hands are involved to make us healthy and keep us alive. You know, having a simple thing like a meal is a true blessings. So a few things what in Berkeley kind of touched me. Once, of course, Rabbi Hank Shur was there. English was the main language that we communicate. But the simple things, like we finish our lunch and everyone will start cleaning, including Rabbi Hank Shur. Bringing some plates, you know, just slowly move, you know, make dishes. And doing this together, I really felt that we are a community here, you know, 5 of us, you know, it was not like a big group. But just that is kind of, you know, I feel at home in some sense. And I feel that everyone contributes here in the very simple gestures, but it means a lot to me. And the feeling of it. So there was one element. I started going to the Berkeley Adult School, BAS, you know, for my English classes. This very helps me. It was kind of important. But back to cultivation. In Berkeley, in fact, it was, even I mentioned, it was a moment, it was like few of us, but most of the time I was alone. Jin Chuanshi just started his MA in Deerview. You know, so half of the week, or more than half, he spent in Ukiah. Rabbi Hanshur really was sometimes in Australia and also traveled a lot. And Jin Foshe was not there yet. And other monks also travel with Jin Chuanshi to Ukiah at the time. So I was alone, and as Jin Chuanshi says, what CTDB had, this kind of peer group pressure, you know, okay, when you not show up in the morning, people will see it. When you're not so
knock on your door.
Or knock to your door, actually. So, you like or not, you come and then practice. In BBM, you are not show up, you not show up. The Buddha hall will be empty. But I have this developed muscle to, okay, it's time, I go. But, as I mentioned before, I perform a lot without knowing that. They want to be accepted, want to be seen as a good. Here, nobody is seeing me. I'm alone. Who perform? You know, maybe to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but they of course know what I'm doing. So how to perform to them. And I slowly become quite discouraged, remember. It's, you know, I don't know, you have those moments, and I think in our cultivation, it's not always going up, better, greater, and more inspiring. There's some of kind of a flat areas, and sometimes we're going down. I don't know, I'm doing that. Another day. Another day to go pass through, and nothing gonna happen. And I'm alone. Alone. The little voice. in the heart, speaking. And the practices, and we have meditation, the daily meditation. The people from the city come sometimes nobody show up, you alone, 3 times a fish and ring the bell. So everything become heavy and kind of duty, obligation. Like the homework in the high, in the school, what you want to do it, but you have to do it anyway, and you just do it, and it's no life into it. When you meditate, you fall asleep, usually, because why not to rest, right now? And I didn't know even that this is happening for me, but that kind of a dark clouds was in my heart and in my mind. And bowing, I don't know, I a little bit limited the bowing because I couldn't maintain the energy. I reduced some bowings, and I remember it was another difficulty coming. Bowing of repentance or renewal. It was super tough, You remember, and we bow, beautiful melody, super touching heart tune. But what's happened in my heart, in my mind, I felt I'm on trial. And every bow I receive verdict guilty. Bow down, feel unworthiness, feel broken, feel disconnect in very deep way. And almost every time, it was not a bowing repentance and renewal, it was a bowing of punishment. And every hour, almost like, oh gosh, I will do this again. And again, guilty, You mess up with this or that, things arising, and it's overwhelming. Myself and my system, and how I can do that. It was very, very challenging. So I kind of stuck. I stuck to the point that I said I cannot bow anymore. It's going nowhere. It's broken me. So it was kind of a very difficult, and I don't know, some people from Asia maybe are not aware of what many of us, Westerners, who grew up in the Christian paradigm, often face, or Jewish, Christian, in general, Western world, the sense of guilt, deep guilt, brokenness, original sin. We are not worthy. We are very often kind of hate ourselves. And it's interesting, so in every first Tuesday every month we have Abhayagiri monks who come now to from Abhayagiri to Berkeley. I don't have to go anymore there. And I remember when Ajahn Pasano, because this topic of guilt for the Westerners appear again and again. And he told that one time one of the accomplished Ajahns came to Australia, in fact. And he was a translator of him. And someone asked a question for him about the sense of guilt, hating himself, and so forth. And Ajahn Pasano tried to translate the question to the teacher to answer, and he found out that there's no word for guilt in Thai language at all. It's like, And have to go around and explain all of this, what's happening in the mind of someone's really punishing with no reason themselves. And it's just, please don't do it this for yourself. You just not do it. No, it's not, no. You have to take care of yourself. So, do you want to say anything in the commentary?
Maybe I can add to that. Having spent a little bit of time within the Christian world before I got into Buddhism, I could see that within the Western spirituality, now this is my interpretation, so you can kind of take it for what it's worth, is actually the spiritual path often begins with realizing how broken you are in the West. On the Christian path, you are a sinner, you are broken. And how deeply you see yourself as broken is how much you can let God in to save you. So the actual reinforcement of this sense of self, kind of lack of self-worth and what do you say, this kind of deep guilt, like I'm a sinner, actually is really emphasized. And so I can see why I think in the Western spiritual paradigm, this is actually something you cultivate in yourself. And it's interesting to me, in Buddhism, it's actually not something we emphasize at all, because we have the Buddha nature. That's the emphasis, right? And so this is something I think if the Dharma is coming to the West, it has to be really carefully addressed. Because sometimes the language that we use can trigger the same kind of thoughts, especially like say repentance and, we call repentance and reform sometimes. Or we say shame and remorse.
Shame and remorse.
We say you always have to have a heart of shame and remorse. For a Westerners, like, wow, that would be horrible. I would have to be ashamed of myself. This is a horrible.
I'm already ashamed a lot.
I feel like
I
I feel really guilty and ashamed of myself. I feel even worse. Wow, I don't know if this is what I want. And so actually translating these Dharma terms into medicine for the West, I think is really important. And so I think Jing Wei shares a good point there, is that, and myself as well, we try to absorb these teachings as it's coming to us from the Buddhist tradition, from our lineage. And we found that as we took the medicine, sometimes it wasn't working. It actually was like poison and creating more problems for ourselves. And it's like, is this right? But that's what everybody else is doing, right? And it's like, wait a moment, but it's like I'm feeling worse about it. Like I said, I was bowing, and in my back of my mind, I was scolding myself. Like, wait, is this right? I don't know, right? And so I think it's an interesting question. So like, how do we translate the Dharma, not just the words, but the spirit, so that it actually transforms the heart in the way that the Dharma is supposed to be for? It's medicine for the mind and the heart.
It's a very key point. Because very naturally, and I did this in Poland many times, you have to start first with repentance and renewal, bowing, very important. You can this way purify your karma. And if you reinforce the self-hatred by using that medicine, it's not a medicine anymore. Even everything from outside looks great. Wow, he's so sincere. Or she. So there are subtle things, how we approach the Dharma, what is our attitude, is extremely, very, very key. So back to the practice. So the few things happen. It didn't discourage me that anyway, but I really want to leave home. Even those moment I face it, I a little bit shortened the whole period. I become an agarika, finally.
Or trainee.
学员. Trainee. And, it was very key, Rabbi Angshur's support. Every week he talked with me with at least an hour. I can share what's ever happening, and he gave me encouragement, basically. Interesting, a lot of Westerners, they need encouragement. Yeah, you're good, you can do it. Yeah. What we lack a lot of in the West is, truly believe in ourselves, that we are able to walk this path, we are able to transform. And I kind of was receiving from Rabbi Angshur, Doug Powers every Monday, Buddhist for the modern mind, the circle. And the Berkeley I was fortunate because Berkeley is a little bit like Buddhist hub. We have different groups are coming in. And we have, I mentioned Thai forest monks came, and Western nuns at the time, Arya Ananda Bodhi and Arya Santuchita came, and I joined every class, everything. I really want to learn how those people explain the Dharma in the West. And Thursday night we have in East Bay Insight Meditation, associated with Spirit Rock. James Barras is the founder since 1995. He's teaching still at Berkeley. And this is what the first time I start seeing people talking about loving kindness, metta. And I look at them, it's like, guys, is something wrong with you? Why are you doing that? How is the practice? You have to be serious. Full lotus, straight, freezing the net, not the skin, starting on that, not back. I was kind of feel embarrassed, honestly, what I was thinking. I feel better, in some sense. And even, okay, feel, accept yourself, who you truly are. If you want to more feel welcome, please place your hand on the heart. I look at them, come on, this is too far. What is this kind of touchy kind of, self-romance or something? I don't understand. I don't understand that concept of loving kindness and accepting myself at all. I'm punishing constantly. But it was evident those people are very kind people, very welcoming, there's something going on there. And Ajahn Pasanno, anytime he comes, metta, 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 loving kindness, like saying praise by everyone, who comes and what's happening. And we also have 2 visiting monks from Vaigiri came to
The City
City of 10,000 Buddha. Do you want to say that?
So what happened actually at one point is we had 2 monks from Vaigiri Monastery, Ajahn Kachana and Ajahn Suhajo, visit CTTB, but especially DRBU as consultants. What kind of consultants? Vinaya consultants. We were asking them, so how do we set up a university so that it really fosters harmonious community, but following the precepts? And I thought Vaigiri does it quite well, so maybe they can give us some tips for the university. So I mentioned to them, I said, our students here, it's pretty tough, you imagine college in America and what it's like normally. But here, our kids, or the students, right, basically they hold the 5 precepts. There's no alcohol, and usually in colleges, there's a lot of alcohol. I don't know what it's like in Australia. But probably, yeah, I see some nodding head, yeah, a lot of alcohol. And the actually going to the women's dorms, or the women going to the men's dorms, is actually expulsion. So there's no sexual activity on campus, which I think is also probably not normal on college campuses, right? And our movies we watch are all G-rated.
Boarding games, like board games.
So they play a lot of board games,
Board games.
So these students, the normal college kids come, and they come to DRBU, and they're trying to uphold these precepts, and they're pretty gung-ho for the first couple of months. But what I realized is that after a couple of months, they have all this energy they need to use, and all the regular ways that they use it up in the world through drinking, partying, hanging out with the opposite gender and flirting or something, that's all off the table. So what do they do? So I asked the 2 monks, and I was surprised that both of their response immediately was loving kindness. I said, oh, really? Loving kindness? You mean I'm well, I'm happy, may I be happy, that kind of stuff? Because I've heard about
Pretty
it.
basic, you know.
I heard about this thing, but I don't know. It's kind of like, well, I just repeat stuff. I don't know. You're like, they looked at me like you don't know about this? I said, like what? Like, this is like the best part about the spiritual life, loving kindness. I said, really? It's like, what does that mean to you? So Ajahn Kachana, I remember this really, because it really struck me. He said, for instance, I was just at a DRBU class. It was a really exciting class. You know, all the students were sharing, exploring the Dharma together, having insight. And then you leave the class and there's this energy where everyone's like, wow, super excited about the Dharma. He said, naturally what people do is they go out and they start talking to their friends and they use the energy up. So what I do, I just stay in the room afterwards, take a few deep breaths, and I ground that feeling of well-being and happiness in the body. He said, just like how the body remembers trauma, the body can remember kindness and happiness. I said, oh, wow. I never thought about that before. And I thought, wow, that's so practical. You know, just grounding that sense of well-being in the body so you remember it. And the other monk was like, yeah, like, don't you guys have like one in Bodhisattva? Like, you need to be creative with, like, you know, metta practices. You know, have the great compassion mantra. I even do the mudras. He goes online, looks up mudras, and does little mudras and stuff. I'm like, where are you getting this stuff, you know? That this is in your tradition. I said, yeah. So, but I never really thought about it that way, where loving kindness is kind of connected to the practice. Because similar to Jing Weisher, I was doing the practice from a sense of I don't know if I can maybe not say so much obligation, but from a very achievement mindset. And I had in mind when I was starting the practice, coming to CDDB, where I had a feeling like if I wasn't always reciting the Great Compassion Mantra, I was wasting my life. I remember I was working with a monk, and a monk started asking about my life. And like, who are you, where are you coming from? I said, you're wasting time. We're supposed to be reciting the Great Compassion Mantra. Why are you wasting time talking? We can't be talking, just recite the Great Compassion Mantra, you know? And my mind was like very narrow. This is what we're supposed to be doing. And I realized, wait a moment, maybe there's another way. And so what was interesting is loving kindness, I think, became like a doorway for both of us. Like, wait a moment, I think there's something really here around loving kindness. You know, this sense of starting with this acceptance of ourselves, you know, wishing ourselves well, finding this ground of well-being, and then being able to share that with other people, rather than from a mind of trying to achieve something or forcing ourselves. So I remember coming back and sharing that with Jing Weisher, and we were both pretty much almost every day in the monastery have talked about loving kindness since.
Since then. Like, I don't know, 7 years or something.
Yeah, 7 years.
And it was a question about catalyst. So we're coming to the catalyst point. So we become very curious, you know, okay, what is this magic there? Why they're so excited about this, and why this practice is so evidently seen, you know, that something is transformed in these monks when they show up. And for myself, it was first Tuesday, Ajahn Karuna Dhammo came. The first ordained monk in North America from Ajahn Chah tradition, from the forest tradition, and first in Abhayagiri, Vincent Nagarika, you know. He really embodied loving kindness, you know, very gentle and kind of, has kind eyes, very uplifting presence. And after the talk, I said, Ajahn, Venerable, they always placed palms together when you ask the monk, you know.
Whenever you talk to your senior monks, you clap your hands together.
Always clap
the entire time.
Entire time. And can you tell me more about the practice of loving kindness? I really try it. At this point, I really try it. May I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be at ease. And it's like I felt void, nothing there, you know, like putting sugar and kind of be like naive, some phrases. So, but come on, I don't want to, this is wasting time, you know. I cannot connect to it. I don't know. This is foreign language. It was foreign language from my heart. So I asked him, Venerable, I try my best, doesn't work. Can you give me some tips or help me? Oh, Venerable. You have to be very creative with loving kindness. I'm using, for instance, the one more mantra. Okay, one more mantra. Well, can you tell me what is the mantra what you're using? Of course, sure, I can share with you. I hold my day. Anytime I remember, recite a word gentle. 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 And I don't just recite the word, I feeling gentleness in my body. Anything arising, any judgments, any criticism, I welcome this with gentle body and heart. And everything what I do through the day reminding me about the gentleness. Gentle. You need to be creative. Find your key to metta practice if you want to cultivate that. And I was very inspired with it. Okay, I'm in. Now I'm in. Okay, I need it. I waited for that. Now I can play with it. And well, some of you heard that my recipe for metta for a long time. So I start meditating, relax, and first, what came to me, what is my approach? What the quality in my heart? I mentioned I was very very harsh on myself and non-accepting and treating myself as an enemy. So, what do my heart really need? Was a sense of safety. I don't feel safe in my heart. I feel kind of danger. I mentioned to you, in my parents divorced, and there was a lot of kind of conflict in our family. So the home was not that safe place emotionally in many ways. So I developed this kind of uncertainty in terms of the be welcome, accepted, and so forth, from very early age, in fact. Safety. So, okay. And as the word safety appears in my mind, immediately who comes? My grandma. And I start with meditating and remember myself as maybe 8 and 9 years old, Marek, going with my parents, going to the home. I remember even before we go there, we're going to see our grandma. So great, wonderful. I waited the whole week to see her. And now we're going, wow, grandma. We came to the parking lot. I just ran from the car, running, but full of enthusiasm, it's, run through the stairs to the second floor and opened the door and felt the smell of the house. Remember every element, all of them become very kind of vivid, the memory. Run to the kitchen, she's staying there cooking something, the smell of blini. This is a Lithuanian specialty. Made, and I said, Grandma, I'm so happy to see you. And I said, yeah, Marek, and give me a hug and kiss me, and I'm so happy to see you. And I feel so good to be around someone who loves me unconditionally. And I'm meditating, kind of that, going through the movie, through my memory. And remember how I was in my body to feel that. So clearly remember, was so close to heart. And now I ask myself, can I look on to myself with the same kind eyes as she looked at me? So this became my koan. Every moment, remember kindness, relaxed, connect to this, I can say, a life energy of unconditional kindness. And it was, the beauty of it was that it was so close. It's like almost like shift, when you want to turn on the light, you just turn on and everything becomes colorful. You see different things, you become curious, alive, and then it's like, wow, I start feeling the power of this loving kindness practice. And this slowly start bringing this, not just meditating, and of course I don't all the time bring my grandma, but it was just a starter. It was a little bit starting a flame in the heart. Now I kind of start feeling, because before what I did is a little bit like, for those who watch sports, NBA for instance, when I was young, Michael Jordan was the hero, Shaka Tag, Carly Malone and other players. And, the heroes, like gods of basketball. But I just praising them. Oh, you are so great. You are wonderful ones. Let's start play basketball. Accept where I am and do little by little, start playing the game of kindness. Return to the court in my heart and start genuinely, authentically feel something there. Because before was void. I didn't know that I have heart. And even what happened to me before when I recite our, evening ceremony we have today, 88 Buddhas, I so love now in Chinese. It's like, whoa, it was very nice time today in Chinese. It took me a while to feel that. I feel this dissonance of they great ones and I'm here nothing. Constant reminder, you're nothing, you are nothing, you are nothing. Instead of, let's do little. Start with accepting yourself, genuinely. Not pretending that accepting, not performing, but start feel kindness in my body, in my heart. And interestingly, when I start moving this into other practices, it's like, I enter a new, it's a game changer. I start to really feel the power of those rituals. And it's like we do the surgery. To do the surgery, we need to prepare the space, it has to be clean, steady. And we need to use some anesthesia because the pain could be overwhelming. And we need to bring this kind of a right attitude to our heart that is gentleness, kindness, and in the end has healing result. We feel that something release. So as we watch the prisoners from San Quentin, I start moving from the courtroom in my heart in repentance to the classroom. Start learning, but not scolding myself if I make a mistake, but more question was not I did wrong, but the question was how does it feel when I'm not aligned with compassion and kindness? How does it feel? And even more important, how does it feel when the heart is connected to kindness? Relax, how body feels, what the thoughts are rising, what the emotions are, and start kind of trusting that I don't have to perform anymore to others. The real practice is happening here in the heart. Little few things change everything completely. And now in Guanyin, with Guanyin I can do so much in loving kindness. Reciting Guanyin name, have the feelings and emotions of my grandma, Buddha's Bodhisattvas, Master Hua, the good teachers who surrounded me. All of it could be in one Guanyin. And the body can feel it, the heart can feel it. It's Namo Guan Shi. It's become a medicine. so simple and so profound at the same time. Any
Yeah, so you guys add there. We can talk about this for long hours. So
Yeah,
we
this is
won't do, but I was make a couple of points which I think are actually maybe help connect it. Because actually once I started thinking about this too, from the lens of loving kindness, Dharma from the lens of loving kindness, I started seeing quite a lot in Master Hua's teachings. And if you can just look up, 四无量心 and, 宣化上人, and you'll see he has quite a few talks about it. For instance, he says, how do you recognize Guanyin Bodhisattva? 慈悲喜舍. That's how you know you're meeting Guanyin Bodhisattva, right? You're cultivating Guanyin Bodhisattva in your heart. He says this is something, if you want to be a true cultivator, you need to nurture these 4 hearts in yourself. If you really want to see what's a true religion, it has to have these qualities. He says this is really the heart of Confucianism, of Taoism. It's the spirit when Master Hua went out to that front gate and welcomed the protesters into the 16,000 Buddhas. He said, it's because I have the universal love of Jesus in my heart and welcome you in, right? Not fighting. The first thing that Master Hua says, we realize is basically loving kindness. It's like right there, but we didn't see it. And what I found was that we got caught in the courtroom, which is a constant fighting. It's a constant internal fighting, which sadly also comes out as a kind of judgmentalism. And maybe we're not directly fighting with other people, but it can get out in a kind of aggressive or judgmental way on the people around us. And so we realized, actually, if you just shift the energy to this space, starting, for me, it really was grounding in the body. So Jing Wei-shi was describing his grandmother and how that was very helpful for him. I found that actually a lot of very powerful Buddhist practices come from really like this visualization, but grounding that experience in the body. You can say, Namo Guan Shi Yin Pusa. And for me, you have that image in CDTB of Guanyin Bodhisattva, 1,000 hands, compassionate face, right? It's just this kind of warm glow that comes from her. And there's this kind of sense of you're filled with compassion. And you just feel that kind of wash into the body. It's kind of, and I find that actually grounding that energy in the body is what really somehow keeps it kind of going. I found that just the thoughts, just trying to do something right in the mind, actually can get it to a locked kind of attached place. But if you bring that energy into the body and relax, somehow the mind also opens and relaxes. So I think that was really important. And I think the other thing that, when we were just reflecting on it, is that our sense is this is also the living tradition. We have Master Hua's teachings often in the books and the tapes. For both Jing Wei-shi and myself, we didn't have the opportunity to meet Master Hua, right, in terms of a living presence. What we met is his senior disciples. I remember one time asking Doug, because one of the disciples was actually really supporting us in a project, and I was describing how grateful I was to hear how much she was supporting us in doing some things, that she had almost like more trust and confidence in us in doing it than us ourselves, It was like, wow, she just so much faith and so much of it and so much gratitude to even be part of it. And it was interesting when Doug just turned to me and said, this was our experience with Master Hua. Why do you think we could do what we were doing as like hippies in like our 20s and 30s, Because we knew Master Hua had our backs, 100%. He was there. I mean, he'd correct us, but he had our backs, and there was this care that was unshakable. That's why we could do what we were doing. And you're just feeling what we were receiving from Master Hua. And I realized sometimes we miss that. Myself, because we read it from books, and what we get from the book, sometimes we just read sometimes the scoldings or something, We read it in our own context, and we kind of become very harsh with ourselves because we're not understanding the bigger context of Master Hua's actual profound care for each of his disciples. And so we found that was really important because we also learned from monks coming from China. We had one, I won't say his name, but he came and visited us. And he also, I think Jing Wei-shi mentioned that one of the talks, maybe it was episode 1. One of the monks came and described how after the Cultural Revolution, the Buddhist tradition was kind of cut. The living tradition was cut. And he said, he made an interesting point. He said, well, we still have in China the manuals, we still have the sutras, we still have the Vinaya. But he had an analogy. He says, let's say China has a really good ping pong team, and Brazil wants to have an equally good ping pong team. So they ask China for help. So China sends Brazil the ping pong team manual. So they can read the manual, but said, will they ever be as good as the ping pong team in China? He says, no, it's not possible. The only way that could possibly happen is they sent the ping pong team from Brazil to China to train with the Chinese ping pong team. Or they sent the Chinese coach to Brazil to train their ping pong team. Because a lot of the skill comes from the living embodiment of a teacher. He said, we lost that in China. We didn't have that, And that's why when he was here with us in America, he was so grateful for Master Hua and the RBA, because he could see that that living tradition was still maintained and continue with our senior teachers in the tradition. And he was looking around for where he could revive that in China. Because similarly, he was describing that sometimes for the monks, even these very tough monasteries, they would also get into a punitive mindset, where cultivation became like really forcing, leading to actually people, let's say, really cultivating hard, but then they make a mistake, and they actually then cut off a finger out of repentance or something, or even kill themselves because they feel so bad about themselves. And he says they're really good cultivators, but they didn't know how to deal with the guilt and shame of making a mistake. They didn't have a good teacher to guide them. And it's like, wow, this is something we feel, in our tradition, actually, we had the opportunity to have somebody like Master Hua, not just bring his teachings in terms of his words, but his caring presence. And I think as us as a next generation, how do we maintain that living tradition, that caring presence, so when people come to the monastery, they're brought into that?
Yeah, because it's very important, the aspect to start this project was to finding that I have this resource all the time in me, but also has to be environment would support that. Without the environment, very difficult at the beginning. Sometimes, of course, toughness also helps.
Definitely toughness helps in terms of giving you a sense of vigor and determination.
And also we notice, because even toughness arising, as we recite every day, according with conditions we did not change, we accorded with conditions. So what not change? Heart of kindness, heart of compassion. Anytime, any conditions, I can keep them alive and protect. And for me, this is a little loving kindness flame going. Regardless what's happened, we not fight. Mm-hmm. And what for me was that very eye-opening, that is the whole methodology, how to track thought by thought, emotion by emotion, and I don't have to upload somewhere from heaven, because the loving kindness is what they call divine abidings. This is the homes of the gods. This is when they dwell. So we can be all the time in this sphere of, because in our sense, this is our Buddha nature, who we truly are, that loving kindness. But often little irritation, little judgment in our mind and heart close the access to it. When we track and let go, this loving kindness starts just flowing naturally, like a river, constant, always present. And I see we're almost 8. And for me, was also important because this connected myself to the roots where I came from. This is just Jesus' love. Mm-hmm. Agape, ancient Greeks. This is not like foreign idea in humanity, but somehow we lost that. lost connection to it, mainly because we lost embodied examples of it, probably. And the ways how to practice this, and that sense of acceptance, unconditional care towards ourselves and others can be amplified, connecting directly to Bodhisattva path. Maybe a stop here and
Now,
you can ask.
8 o'clock. I don't know if you have any questions. We went before we finish for the evening.
Katrina has a question.
No, I actually said we need to watch the recording for tomorrow. We're gonna miss out.
You missed it, okay. So the question is, will be any recordings?
Okay. I have a question.
Okay.
How do you suggest all of us begin to practice loving kindness?
How do we start practicing loving kindness?
Yeah, I know that, like you said, we have our mudras and our coffee shows and all that, but when we, at least for myself, how do we connect it to either?
To loving kindness?
So do I come up with a word?
You could if you want. I think you could be creative. At least for myself, I've found that most of the time I just try to ground myself in my body, because I find that the body is a very good teacher and kind of like what is something that tells you what's going on? It's like a meter, I guess, like a meter, like what's actually going on. And so if there's like tension, then I go, oh, something is kind of a little bit off. Can I just kind of relax into it and kind of accept whatever's happening? And by doing that, that's kind of softening allows me to kind of then engage whatever's going on, not from a place of tension and kind of this is right, that is wrong. Because I think that's oftentimes, for me, the trap, is thinking that there's a right way to do it, which is usually my way of thinking about how I'm supposed to do it, and the wrong way, which is how everybody else is doing it, or sometimes even myself doing it the wrong way, and then I judge myself. And so it's just like, actually just relax, and then tune into, so how do I show up here in a way that really cares for myself and cares for the people around me? It's kind of like a tuning, basically it's a tuning. It's kind of a relaxing in and kind of tuning into the kind of vibration, kind of like a frequency. If I were to try to say for each of us what we could do, as Jing Wei Shi was saying, you could start with, is there a time when you actually felt really cared for in your life? Like maybe it's parents, or maybe a grandparent. Maybe it's Master Hua, and you had a chance to meet Master Hua, and his presence really was important for us, right? And it's like tuning into that frequency. And by bringing up that memory, it actually is pretty powerful because it brings up all the associated wholesome dharmas, the wholesome qualities of that experience. And then you can take that wholesome dharmas into the practice, like reciting Guan Yin's name or doing a ceremony. So like, okay, so before the ceremony starts, breathe in, right, ground in the body. I'm doing this out of a place of care for myself, care for all living beings, right? And then the ceremony flows from that place. Versus, I'm here, I have to show up, I have to perform well, who's looking at me? I can reproduce perfectly, right? It doesn't come from that kind of mind that tries to be perfect, but mind that tries to be kind and caring.
As Jing Chuanshu says, that the body awareness is a key. Relaxed body. First, I would say where their tensions are felt. We all have different ways because the body is a good meter. It always knows what's going on. And we very often missed, or I miss myself. So having a genuine reader, what's happening, and kind of softening, be gentle with the sparks, But the gentle, so the very important with this kindness is not be nice. Kindness means be nice. Because sometimes niceness is the strategy to get attention and to get approval and acceptance.
Yeah.
It was my case. But kind, rooted in the body, in our heart, and is unconditional, regardless what's happening. We can find this source of it in ourselves. And you see, there are different triggers, so to speak, to bring this memory, visceral memory, because it's not about ideas. It's a real feeling here and now, with gentleness, relaxation. I think that people felt that anytime Master Hua spoke, we heard. Anytime we would talk, his eyes was different. This completely accepting, as even says, even he's called behind, he want you the best for you, without any question and doubt about it. So can we find this frequency, this energy, whatever it is? But it's just skillful means. It's not means that now we have to cling into it. It's like, I really want to. It's also not feeling good thing. It's more to find this natural, this is who we are in my sense. When we are not afflicted, when we are really soft and relaxed, and more we have presence of it, more and more we can return to it. And is maintaining of it. I am not sure that it answered your question.
Can you try? Yeah, it's definitely worth trying. I think each of you can look in your own ways into this particular teaching, but I think it's definitely worth it. And I just think of just two examples very fast. One, right? People know when Rev Heng Shen and at that time Dharma Master Heng Chao, now Marty, went on their 3 steps, 1 bell pilgrimage, where Master Hua basically told Marty that if he leaves the 4 hearts, the Ci Bei Xi Se, he's no longer his disciple, right? If he throws a punch, if he fights with people, that's not the right way. But if he can maintain the 4 hearts, they will be protected. So very clear instruction. The Buddha's teaching, there's called the simile of the saw that's used quite a lot, especially in Theravada teachings. But I think it's also in the Mahayana, where the Buddha tells the monks, if a robber were to cut you apart piece by piece with a 2-handed saw, and you were to leave the heart of loving kindness, you are no longer practicing my teaching. And it's like, whoa, that's pretty serious. You mean somebody's like really hurting you and you still have to care for them and care for yourself and not have any anger or want revenge? And one way you think about it is like, oh, you just have to sacrifice yourself. When I realized actually when we started exploring this loving kindness is no, it's not because you're sacrificing yourself. Okay, I'm just gonna take whatever, I'm just gonna be a sacrificial person. No, because the heart of loving kindness is so wonderful, you don't want to leave it. You don't want to get trapped by another person's aggression and join the aggression, join the violence. You just abide in this place of kindness. Because the heart of kindness, you never lose. You never lose. It's unconditional, meaning you're not attached to any of the results of it. And this is something we maybe, if we have another opportunity to share, is actually the teachings on equanimity. It's Ci Bei Xi Se, and we found that the last one is really important, the equanimity. It's translated as She in Chinese, and I'm not sure what the reason it got translated as equanimity, as Se. I mean, if somebody can figure that out, I'd be very curious, because Jing Xuanshi is pointing at Jing Fushi, I don't know, but where She comes, because the actual Sanskrit is Upeksha, and Pali is Upekka, and it usually means a heart that's very level and peaceful and balanced. And it has a quality of letting go in it, which is, I think, She, but actually it's this particular sense of acceptance. And so, then the reason, let me just finish with this, why that quality of equanimity is so important is because it's what keeps the hearts boundless. it's called the 四无量心, right? The four boundless hearts. What the 无量 comes from is the equanimity of not getting attached to needing things to be a certain way to be okay. And because you don't attach, then this care can be fearless, can be unconditional. Because I can care about you, and you can even hate me and hurt me. It doesn't affect me. Because that's my care for you is not dependent on your actions to me.
And your approval, disapproval.
And your approval or disapproval of me. But this care can be fierce. Like Jing Wei Shi was saying, what Master Hua could scold somebody for doing something that was harmful for themselves or for the community, extremely fiercely, but from a heart of kindness, right? No anger. And I think that's really key. I mean, there's many stories about people trying to copy Master Hua with the scoldings, and in the end, it doesn't work out. And Master Hua asked, I think it was Marty tells the story, they tried it out in Hong Kong. And when Master Hua came back after they gave a whole bunch of lectures, and then Master Hua asked him, how come when I lecture, all these people come, and when you were lecturing, everybody left? He said, well, we were just copying you. We're just scolding everybody, and da-da-da-da-da. And his master was like, gosh. You know, he said, stupid. he said, here's a quote Marty says, is like, the carpenter's apprentice needs to be careful to pick up the master carpenter's tools for fear they'll cut off their own arm. He says, because when I scold, there's no anger at all. You know, it has to come from complete care and kindness.
Like he often say, virtue is like a sword, which cut without harm.
Yeah.
No harm, because it's only care.
Yeah.
And just last story, because I think in one of our classes, and embody this Master Hua's completely free and connected to boundless, compassion, spirit, and not having any approval, disapproval of anyone. Gary Zukov, the very acknowledged author, he came to City of 10,000 Buddhas in early 80s, and he had a conversation with Master Hua. And he asked him, Master Hua suddenly asked him a question. So, do you have girlfriend? I said, yes. You should marry her. And he told to translate to him. And he says, he didn't like that question. Gary Zukov. No, this is not your business, you want to say, he didn't say that, it's like, come on, So he told to translator, please tell to the master, to the abbot, they put abbot, please tell to the abbot that I cannot make abbot happy. He translated, and Master Hua looked at him. Nobody in this world can make abbot happy. Nobody can make him happy, because the happiness is not coming from the outside. The unhappiness also cannot affect his happiness either. And for me, it's like, wow. And he knew in this moment, this man playing another game. This is something I never met before. It was very powerful. And it makes sense that loving kindness has this quality when we start cultivating it.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I think it's pretty much time. So we're going to finish with a dedication of merit, and we'll see if there's other chances to share. But actually tomorrow is going to be Reverend Hong Shi. He's going to be sharing stories of Master Hua, kind of looking a little bit at the history of the RBA. So that should also be very interesting.
Although it's uncertain, we never know.
Yeah, we never know what will happen. We'll see what happens. Okay. So do the dedication of merit, and definitely dedication of merit is the practice of loving kindness, right? We're wishing well of the world.愿以此功德 提心，今世一报身，同生极乐国，顶礼老和尚。南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀